chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, what do you know? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our friends and family near and far. Look who's first to comment today. UK's in the house. Hi, Harry. How you doing? How is this Tuesday? Still night for you, right? It's not yet morning. Hope you're had a good day and had a good evening, but it's always good to have you on our platform. Like everyone who's about to join, yes. It's time for another episode of Sabrina Speaks, Voices of the Islands, Conversations for the World, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. Yes. Oh, 11:02. Okay, well, thank you for that. You and your military thing, you think I couldn't understand it? I gotcha. For those of you just joining me for the first time, I see you. Thank you for following our page. Thank you to all of our new subscribers. We appreciate you. Now continue to share and spread the love by sharing the link and letting people know what we got going on over here. But, before we go into the regular process today and how we do our show, going into the weather, the news, and even a few community updates, and of course, that section where we highlight and we showcase every one of you. I want to speak directly to the young adults today, the college graduates, even parents and families that are tuning in early. Yes, because this evening's topic, in my opinion, will hit every generation at the same time. It was entitled Young, Broken, and Back Home for a reason. Because we're seeing now where more young people, more than ever, even those with degrees and good jobs and huge dreams, are finding themselves that they're not able to leave home, or they've tried it out there and had to end up back where they're started. And that is living at home, struggling with, the cost of independence and carrying, even in many cases, student debt. And they're trying to build a future in an expensive world. And it's because I'm seeing more and more of this, and I'm seeing more talks and seeing it on other platforms, was the reason why I know a lot of our young people are coming back home with their degrees. You're seeing their graduations, you're seeing their milestones, their achievements coming back home. Some have decided not even to come back because they've gotten other opportunities where they studied. But, parents, you're not alone either. You're feeling it as well, because you're supporting, in many cases now, it's becoming a reality that we can see the time being stretched as parents of supporting, our children longer. And you're stretched at your own budgets and trying to help them launch in an economy that looks nothing like the one you grew up in. So, families are doing their best, but the pressure is real. So tonight, my aim here is to break down the data, the reality, and the emotions behind this global boomerang generation, and the trend, and what it means for Cayman, the Caribbean, and our future. Because it's not just in isolation. Trust me, it's not. So if you're a young person just trying to make it, if you're a parent trying to help, if you're even a family trying to stay afloat, I must tell you, I think you're going to find tonight's episode of Sabrina Speaks rather informative and interesting. So go ahead, like I said, and share the live, tag someone who needs to hear this, and stay locked in, because I want you to know that without you, this platform is nothing. Yes, and we love having you. So right here, Cayman, let's turn the attention and go into our section to get this day started as we build our crowd and our audience and head straight into Young, Broken, and Back Home for what it really means. Please remember, 345-936-8255 is the number to call for to join us live if you so desire. And also that same number is the number you can send us a WhatsApp on as well. But also the views expressed by callers, guests, and online commenters are their own and not those of Bridge Media Limited, its affiliates, the Sabrina Speaks Show, or the host. This program is for general information only and not a substitute for legal, medical, financial, or professional advice. Now, all participants are reminded to speak responsibly and respectfully, and any content that is defamatory, discriminatory, unlawful, or harmful is strictly prohibited and will not be endorsed or tolerated. Now, listener participation and continued streaming from whatever you're streaming us live on implies acceptance of disclaimer, and I thank you for your understanding. So, yep, right here, let's get straight into what's making our weather into today, yes, and for tonight, sorry, and into tomorrow. Thanks to our friends over there at the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. Let's get straight into it. The synopsis for tonight is calling for an increased chance in hazy skies is expected into tomorrow morning, as moderate concentration of Saharan dust is expected to move into the Western Caribbean. Now, a dust alert is in effect, and exercise caution for reduced air quality and visibility. Now, light to moderate winds and moderate seas are expected across the Cayman Islands as a ridge pattern dominates the area. Satellite imagery show a few low-level clouds across our area. The forecast for tonight is calling for partly cloudy and hazy with 20% chance of showers. Now, that dust alert is in effect again for tonight and into tomorrow, and temperatures for tonight will fall to the low 80s. Winds will be east-southeast 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Tomorrow's forecast is calling for continued hazy skies with a 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise to the low 90s with a heat index of near 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds will be east to southeast 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. There will be a high tide this evening at 11:55 p.m., a low tide at 6:19 a.m. tomorrow. Sun will set this evening at 6:59, and sun will rise tomorrow morning at 5:47. The outlook, my friends, is calling for warm and hazy conditions for the next few days as the plume of Saharan dust slowly drifts across the Western Caribbean. And because of that, that dust alert will continue to be in effect going through Thursday. I was out and about today, and yes, I can see a difference in our visibility, definitely. And I was out this morning with the dogs, and to be honest, totally not realizing what was going on. My eyes just started to itch like crazy. Like they really, I don't know. And I'm like, ooh, then I realized what was going on. Of course, I came inside immediately, and then we saw all of these alerts going on that I'll cover later on in today's episode. So yeah, there you have it. Welcome, one and all. It's good to be back with you on this Tuesday afternoon, right here for another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Let's see what's making news today here on this platform, starting with local news. Police are investigating a robbery that occurred just after 1 this morning in the Ryan Road area off Crew Road in Georgetown. Now, a man was walking in the area when two masked suspects stole his bag containing cash and personal items. No weapons were reported and no injuries were sustained. The suspects are described as slim and dressed in dark clothing with black face coverings. Now, anyone with information or CCTV footage from between midnight to 1:30 a.m. is asked to contact the Georgetown police, or submit anonymous tips via Crime Stoppers. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service issued a public advisory earlier this afternoon after conducting an operation in the Crew Road and Linford-Pearson Highway area. Officers had been searching for a person of interest described as a dark, slim with dreadlocks, wearing knee-length black shorts and a white tank top and carrying a black bag. Residents and motorists in the area were asked to report any sightings or suspicious activities to 911. In another Royal Cayman Islands Police Service news today, yes, they are upgrading their fleet with new marked service vehicles set to appear on patrol in the coming weeks. The purpose-built 2026 Ford Police Interceptor units include enhanced emergency lighting, reinforced prisoner transport compartments, ballistic door protection, and advanced safety and stability systems designed for frontline operations. RCIPS official says the rollout led by Fleet Manager Martin Oakley, with support from senior leadership, forms part of the service wider modernization strategy to improve officer safety, operational readiness, and public protection. Additional shipments are expected in the months ahead, replacing existing service delivery and firearms unit vehicles. Other local news today. Public health officials are advising residents to take precaution as the Saharan dust clouds move across the Cayman Islands. Now, the National Weather Service has issued a dust alert through Thursday, with reduced air quality expected and increased risk for those with asthma or respiratory conditions. Health leaders urge the public to stay indoors where possible, keep windows closed, use air conditioning on recirculate, and wear masks when outdoors. Residents are encouraged to monitor official channels for updates and more guidance, as we also will keep you informed and alert here on this platform as well. We turn our attention in more local news coming from the Cayman Islands Fire Service. Yes, they are welcoming the class of 2026 as 26 recruits officially passed out after completing a rigorous 27-week training program. Now, the ceremony held on May 29th included a formal reception and attended by Her Excellency the Governor, recognizing the discipline and commitment shown throughout their training. Now, stepping onto the front line of public safety, these new firefighters join a proud professional dedicated to protecting lives, property, and the environment. Congratulations to the Cayman Islands Fire Service, class of 2026. Yes, we even got news coming out of the regiment. Yes, the Cayman Islands Regiment says a team has just returned from the United Kingdom after taking part in the Royal Bermuda's Regiment annual camp exercise, Active Shield. The 2-week deployment strengthened regional partnerships and built key public order skills used to support civil authorities, now including during recent hurricanes Melissa relief efforts. Captain 𝗕𝗿𝗍𝗆 and several junior NCOs also held command roles, gaining valuable leadership experience. An official says training like this ensures a more capable and operationally ready regiment for the Cayman Islands. The Ministry of Education and Training this evening has confirmed appointment of 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏 as Deputy Chief Officer for Education Policy and Planning effective May 11th. He has served in the role in acting capacity since 2024 and brings more than 20 years of experience across Cayman's education system, including school leadership and policy development. Now, the ministry says his appointment supports ongoing efforts to strengthening long-term planning and outcomes in education. Congratulations, Mr. Wattler, and all the best to you in your future endeavors. Yes, I am so proud of you, and I am quite sure you will continue to make a huge impact on the lives of our next generation, and definitely all that you come in contact with in the execution of your duties and definitely your role. Let's take a look at what's making headlines throughout the region here this evening as we continue here on the Sabrina Speaks news segment here for today. Starting out with Barbados. Yes, Reported by Barbados today, Barbados Light and Power is seeking to reassure customers following concerns about potential increases to electricity bills. Now, the company says a recent Fair Trading Commission ruling permitting temporary additional generation capacity is expected to add only about $1.25 per month to the average household bill and will not take effect before September. Officials emphasize that the measure is intended to maintain system reliability while keeping customers' costs as stable as possible. Over in Antigua and Barbuda, yes, they have broken ground on Long Bay Zen, a $200 million luxury resort featuring 113 high-end units, AI-driven operations, and built-in sustainability features. The government official says that the project will create jobs and wages, but critics warns it may accelerate property prices beyond what many locals can afford, a pattern seen across the region for decades. As construction begins, the central question remains whether the development represents smart investment or another resort that deepens the divide between tourism growth and local affordability. Any similarities here to the Cayman Islands? I tell you, we're connected more than you think. Over in Jamaica, we see where, reported by Nationwide News in Jamaica, that the cabinet has approved a 16% fare increase for public passenger vehicle operators. Transport Minister 𝗕𝗰𝗙𝗘 made the announcement earlier today, confirming the adjustment will be implemented in 2 phases, within an initial 8% taking effect today, June 2nd, and a second 8% scheduled for July. Minister Vaz says that the phased approach is intended to balance the financial pressures facing operators while reducing the immediate impact on commuters. There is a familiar face in Trinidad and Tobago this week, as well-known meteorologist Brian Shields has arrived there. Yes, Shields, widely recognized for his regional weather coverage, is in Trinidad for engagements connected to forecasting and climate awareness. Now, his visit has already generated interest among viewers and weather enthusiasts, given his long-standing connection to Caribbean audiences. I'm quite sure we will see clippings from that for all of you who subscribe to him. I know I do. The Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh are in Portugal as part of events marking the 640th anniversary of the Treaty of Windsor, the world's oldest diplomatic alliance. Now, during a day of engagements in Lisbon, their Royal Highnesses rode one of the city's iconic trams, unveiled the first public display of the original English and Portuguese treaty documents, and attended a garden party at the British ambassador's residence celebrating outstanding community contributions. Now, the visit underscores the enduring partnership between the United Kingdom and Portugal. We see where, as reported by Forbes, the largest institutional holder of Bitcoin has disclosed a recent sale, confirming it offloaded approximately $2.5 million worth of the cryptocurrency late last month. Now, the filing offers a rare look at trading activity among major Bitcoin holders at a time when institutional movements continue to influence market sentiment. Analysts note that such disclosures are closely watched as they can signal shifting strategies within the digital asset space. And we'll definitely keep our eyes out for that, because you know what that means when they're offload. Something new is coming. In our business roundup for today, we see where global markets were mixed today. Asian trading ended unevenly and Europe saw modest gains. And the United States indices held near record levels on continued AI-driven momentum. Brent crude hovered in the mid-$90 range while gold remained steady. Here in the Caribbean, the Jamaican Stock Exchange posted light gains across major indices, and regional economic indicators continued to show varied performances as countries balance recovery and growth pressures. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes, That concludes this evening's news segment here on the Sabrina Speaks platform. It's good to be here with you on this fine Tuesday afternoon. I hope you've had a productive day and you're keeping indoors as much as possible. And if you're outdoors, I'm hoping that you are making sure that you're protecting yourself for sure. I want to say happy birthday to all of those persons who are celebrating a birthday, wedding anniversary, or just celebrating life today. From all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks family, we want to share and wish you many, many more to come ahead. And also, we want to remember those as well who are mourning the loss of a loved one. We just want to let you know that our thoughts and prayers are with you as you navigate this challenging time. As I said, the first person to comment this evening was Harry. Harry's in the house from the UK. Yes, joining us at 11:02. Lisa Brightly is also here as well. Good evening to you as well. Thank you for joining us here and commenting on the platform. You just, all of you guys make me feel that I'm not alone, or not even talking to myself. Getting used to this whole thing. Andrew Campbell is in the house. Oh, loyal, oh, faithful. Oh, you and so many more. Thank you so much. Good evening, Sabrina. Blessed Tuesday to you and the Cayman Islands, and the same well wishes to you as well, my love. Connie Bonnie is here. Good evening, Auntie Sabrina Turner, community activist, and the crew. Yes, and I'll be sharing those beautiful orchids that you shared with me momentarily. Aliano is here as well. Good evening, Cayman, and to you as well, Aliano. Thank you for the warm wishes. Still on the road. Hope all is well. Oh, yes, I am given thanks, my dear. Hope the same on your end. Oh, another old faithful here and a content person here. Words of wisdom and encouragement. Let's hear what our friend Damien Henry has to say today. Good evening, all. Being proud of who you are means recognizing your worth, embracing your journey, and standing confidently in your truth. It's honoring your strength, accepting your imperfections, and understanding that every experience, good or bad, has shaped you. It's knowing your story carries meaning, your voice matters, and you deserve to take up space exactly as you are. You are enough, and your journey is worth celebrating. Damien, you're just kicking off these kabooms early, like 2 days back to back?
Kaboom!
You've been bringing it home. Thank you, Damien. Oh, that is so sweet of you. And thank you again for sharing such kind words of inspiration and affirmation. Definitely. We appreciate you. What is Harry saying here? Getting into it really, really early. Portugal and the UK have the actual oldest lions in the world, started over 600 years ago in the Treaty of London, signed in 1373, and is still in effect to this day. Yeah, I noticed that, which is why I always like to bring a segment of the UK. And not every news I will pick up out of any of these jurisdictions for a number of reasons. But yeah, I had to cover that because I thought that was very interesting. So thank you for sharing that a little bit more for us. Context really, really do matters. Yes, I want to say thank you so much, Connie Bonnie, for sharing the love and keeping us up to date with these images here, these orchids of her day. She shared with us her orchids of today. Look at that one. OMG. Thank you so much for sharing the love, my dear. And yeah, thank you for just brightening my day, and I'm hopefully others as well, with your beautiful green thumb that you keep these things alive. I want to also say, and you may have seen on my page earlier on today, we are celebrating, and Facebook recognized us for having over 500 interactions just for the week alone. I mean, this is huge because we do get a lot of traffic. But this is just the algorithms for last week on Facebook alone. This does not include Instagram. This does not include YouTube. This is just Facebook, and this is you. This is all you. This does not even include CMR. This is just the Sabrina Speaks. So thank you so much for all of you liking and subscribing. And they're actually acknowledging us. And it's not me. It's you. You guys are liking, following, sharing, and they're letting us know that we're doing something good over here. So I want to thank you all for making this milestone, helping me get here. And that was just last week. Let's see what we can do for this week and definitely for the days to come ahead. So welcome, one and all. It's good to be back with you. I got to take it back just a notch because there's been a lot going on in regards to, before we get into the substantive discussion for this evening, and we're right on the money. We're still doing all of the housekeeping and all that good stuff within, I would say, half hour as we continue to build the space here and to keep you update with what happenings that I have. But before going into that, I just want to share this with you and to help promote this event, because that's what we do here. I try to help as much as I can. Please remember, guys, that this evening, today is the 2nd of June, Newlands and Savannah, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service District Community Meetings is taking place in your area at the Joanna Clark Primary School this evening, starting at 7 p.m. And on Wednesday, that's tomorrow, you're there in Georgetown, the capital. So anyone has any policing issues and you want to get up and close with the commissioner and your beat officers and other officers, a part of the community policing, and just overall, you want to go out in your respective districts at these dates. And the last one is ending on Thursday. That's in West Bay. So this evening, Savannah Newlands community residents, 7 o'clock at the Joanna Clark Primary School. Let's see, and hoping that everybody goes out and support this event. Also, one of our contributors here is asking me to share this flyer. Something is taking place here, but the Ebenezer Church Adventist Youth Ministries Department is having a paint and praise event. And this is going to take place on Sunday, June 14th from 5 at the Mary Miller Hall right here in Red Bay and Prospect community. Now, from 5 p.m., these refreshments will be served, and there is a fee. Children are $20 and adults are $50. So, yes, so this is, as we said, it's a paint and praise, a brunch. It's a brunch style experience. So it's just not the entry. This is a brunch style experience, and this will take place on Sunday, June 14th. So yeah, Mary Miller Hall. So we'll keep pushing this, and I'm happy to help where I can. So we just want to bring that to your awareness and for information, just in case you're interested in attending. Now, you notice where we were, the CMO of the Cayman Islands did bring an awareness to everything that's happening with the Sahara dust update. But before I continue, I just want to take a moment to talk about that just a little bit, if you would allow me, please. How this dust that is affecting our islands today and into the week, and this is not the last of it. Many of you may have already seen the haze or felt the effects, the scratching of the throat, the itchy eyes that I felt this morning, and I didn't even realize what it was. It's real, and it's here. So my intention for just about 5-10 minutes is to break this down so that everybody can understand, and also share again for emphasis what the chief medical officer is advising all residents. Now, every year we notice where strong winds lift dust from the Sahara Desert in Africa. And what happens with that dust and these strong winds is that it carries it thousands of miles across the Atlantic. And when those winds actually shift towards our region here in the Caribbean, the dust then settles over the Caribbean and, of course, then right here in the Cayman Islands. This is a natural event, and some days, like today, the concentration is much higher, and that's when we feel it the most. Normally, you wouldn't when it's not as thick. But what you may have noticed today, and I've seen where some pictures have been shared, I can see it from here as well, the sky looked hazy, milky, and even the sun at some point in time may appear to be dimmer or with a stronger tinge, an orange color, which would make sunsets amazing. Yeah. But what we also feel is a difference in the air, because the air feels dry, like very dry. And people, of course, that are sensitive, people with allergies, feel extra irritated. And this does not exclude those asthma sufferers, because what they may actually feel is tightness or even shortness of breath during these times. Now, what we must note, or I must stress, is that This is all normal during the Saharan dust event, hence the importance of our CMO putting the advisory out. Because what the CMO is reminding the public is that when we have plumes of dust this thick, it worsens respiratory systems, especially for asthma sufferers and for people with chronic lung conditions. We see where it even impacts our children, older adults, and allergy sufferers. I'm, for one, love hanging on the back patio. Of course, it's screened in because I'm petrified of frogs. But I will not be outside in the next couple of days as much as I love the screened in outdoor portion of it. Because what we're seeing is that the advice coming from our CMO is that we must, or we should, limit outdoor activities during, the worst haze, which we're entering that phase, and it will continue straight until Thursday. And especially if you know for sure that you have asthma or breathing issues already, you don't want to be outside. You don't. And it is advising you, if you can, to keep your windows and doors closed, because what this actually does is that it helps reduce the dust entering your homes. And if you're at a case where you can use your air conditioning, it filters the air and reduces definitely the irritation. Another key indicator is that you're being asked to stay hydrated, because what happens is that the dust in itself dries out our throats and our sinuses. Yes. So have your inhaler or your allergy medication close at hand. And if you use one, keep it very close throughout the rest of the week, and especially during this time. And what the CMO is also asking is stressing that anyone who's experiencing severe breathing difficulties, they should seek help immediately and don't take it for granted. Oh, this would just go off. Only you know yourself, right? So what we have seen because of this, and hence the advisory, is that these dust, the dust in itself, do contain tiny particles that irritate our eyes, our throat, our ears, our nose, and our lungs. And what we see is that most people, this is just really uncomfortable. And for others, especially, like we said, with allergies and asthma, it can trigger sneezing, coughing, wheezing, and the tightness in the chest. So at the end of the day for today, the key is, and straight into the rest of the week, I'd say just go straight for the rest of the week. Stay indoors when possible, especially during these heavy days, like when the haze is really bad. Keep your windows closed, because this reduces letting dust on the inside of your house. And again, use AC or air purifiers if you have them, because that can also help purify and clean the air that you're in. And wear a mask. Wear a mask if you must go outside for long periods, because what that will do, it will limit irritation. And what you're also encouraged, but you should be doing this anyhow, is to drink plenty of water, because it helps your body handle the dryness. And what we can do for drivers, if it gets to that case, just be very careful, period. Because there are times, with the sun and all that sort of stuff, sometimes visibility can be impaired. So at the end of the day, I just want us to take it easy during this time. And I felt it was important for me to just dedicate a few minutes to highlight the importance of these things with what's happening with the Saharan dust and how it's gotten here. This doesn't only happen in the Eastern Caribbean. We've seen where Barbados and St. Lucia and them have been hammered because they get it first. Oh, yeah, they get it hard. And I mean, they get it firsthand. So, if you're feeling the scratchy throat, the tightness of the chest, or let's say even extra sneezing, you're not alone. And this is going to continue as forecasted through Thursday. So follow the CMO's guidance. There is a video in circulation on social media, and stay hydrated, stay indoors whenever you can. And for all of those people who are working outside, we're asking employers to just exercise some sort of discretion and understanding during this time at the end of the day, to make sure that you consider the well-being and health and safety of your employees during this time. But we will do our best here to keep you updated if any conditions changes as well. So make sure that you just got that, and I hope that you found that informative. Alfred Reed, good evenings, Auntie Sabrina. I think that's my favorite top that you're wearing. Very elegant woman. Thank you, my love. And if there was ever a one to steal my heart with words, Alfred, you took the cake. You got the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Yeah. You said, I was wondering why this post-nasal drip I have, that I draft. Someone I can't go out and talk about on a party, and he picked up a draft because, I used to going out. Did I say that? Oh, Lord. Who said that? Did you hear anybody say anything? More than likely, Alfred, that is exactly what it is. This Saharan dust is triggering your allergies. I don't know who was saying. Maybe that's because some of us go out and they can't handle the night draft because they're not. Yeah, well, who's saying that? Miss Barbara, good evening to you. It's good to have you joining us this evening as I trouble old Alfred. Oh my goodness. Can't take that night juice. Can't take a ting. For those of you just joining me, 345-936-8255 is a number to call. Should you feel free to join in live and participate in our live discussion, that's also the number to WhatsApp me on. And in case you're just joining, what the heck it is we're talking about tonight, what we're going to be doing is diving into a trend that is sweeping across not only the United States, but is deeply relevant to us here in the Cayman Islands and definitely across the region. What am I talking about? I'm talking about young adults moving back home, some not even being able to get off their own feet and be independent and say, okay, I'm going out on my own. Young adults who are unable to launch independently, even if mentally, emotionally, physically, education-wise, they are ready for it. Young adults that are finding themselves delaying transitional milestones of adulthood, no fault of theirs. But in preparing for today's episode, what I found is that in a new Sparefoot survey of nearly 1,000 Gen Z adults, and I have to get this because this is information that I pulled, nearly 1,000 Gen Z adults and young millennials found that 58% who had moved away from home later returned. And what happened is that 15% returned more than once. So even when they thought they were ready, okay, I did it wrong. I messed up here. Let me try this again. This survey proved that 15% returned multiple times. Now, this is not a small number when you put this into context. That's a generational shift. And what we see, because this survey was out of the US, what we see is that as expensive as the US is, there are some states that are more expensive than others. And some of those states, like New Jersey, Connecticut, and California, more than 39% of adults age 18 to 34 live with their parents. Yeah. And we know the US mentality. 18, let's go, buddy. You're out. You're on your own. You're tapping into my retirement. That's not necessarily the same culture we're seeing here in our region of the world. But what we're seeing with this survey is that this isn't just an American story. This is also a reality here. At least some of them have the opportunity to move out and realize, oh, this ain't working for whatever reason, and they come back. Some of our own can't even get out on their own. This, too, is a Caribbean story. This is also the reality of a small island development state story. So, like I said, for those of you just joining us, tonight, my intention is to break down some of the information that I found, the economics, the culture, and definitely the future, and we're hoping we're going to talk honestly about what it means for us right here at home, for our young people, and for long-term sustainability when it comes to these trends. So yes, at any point in time during the discussion, I appreciate those who want to weigh in on this and give their perspective. If you can see it, if you feel it, if you're a young adult who's getting ready or have just recently graduated and looking for a job, whether or not you're even interested in right now home ownership, because that's another segment that I'll cover as well. What was tradition of me as a class of 1990, getting a good job and getting a mortgage? That's not necessarily the desires of some of these generations now. They want to travel. They want to explore. We're seeing where some of them are not even interested in getting a job. They're doing very well right now on podcasting, creating apps that are making them millionaires overnight. Some of them are not even 30. Some are not even 25. We're seeing right now in the movie industry where you got YouTubers that are actually making horror movies for like $750,000 and is raking in millions of dollars once they're being showcased, once their movies are being gone public. Is this shifting times? Let's talk about it right here on Sabrina Speaks. Harry is weighing in early, but this isn't a generational issue. This is economic issues in the 1990s. The average house price was 4 times the annual salary of an average person today. The average house price is 8 times. And there are a number of factors, which is why I'm saying, I think, because there are different sections of the discussion, that our younger people are realizing, look, I may have other priorities that right now, even owning a home is not my first thing. I may want to travel. I may want to see the world from a different lens. Priorities of me being 18 to 34 now or 34 now, 18 to 34 as a child of 1974 is total different priorities because, as you rightfully said, things and times have changed. So what we're seeing is based on the statistics that I got from a number of sources. And Harry also added that the average salary, while salaries are stagnating, house prices continue to go up and up and up. And you're so right. That's no different here. It's no different here in the Cayman Islands. And this is why in a portion of the news segment with Antigua and Barbuda, you hear how the people and the critics there are saying it's going to constantly create a divide between accessibility and affordability, weighing tourism, investors, and their own people. So it's quite unique what's happening around the world. And this is why it is so important for us to have stats and to look at trends and see how it's applicable, even relevant and relevant here to us here in the Cayman Islands. Now, what we're seeing, and like I said, this is based on some United States trends and what the data shows. It shows there that more than, again, 18 to 24 Gen Zers live with their parents, according to the census data. And also one of the other polls called Harris Poll from Bloomberg found that 45% of people aged 18 to 29 still lives at home. Now, that is the highest since the 1940s. And this was reported by CBS News. Let's just move it back a little bit and look at the Harris poll of where it says 40% return home for the reasons to save money. And then also information from this Harris poll is saying that 30% of the Gen Zers said that they simply could not afford to live on their own. So 19% moved home to pay down debt. A lot of them had student loans, student debt, right? And 16% were recovering from emergency costs for whatever reasons, right? Then we saw where CBS News reported that 10% had to return back home because they lost a job. What we're also seeing based on the information that we got is that the boomerang effect. What happens with the boomerang? I had one in the backdrop. Yeah, it comes back, right? Move Start data shows, again, for relevance and context, 30% from the boomerang effect of Gen Z movers returned to their home state within 24 months. Yes, within 2 years. And what was the reason is that rent in major cities rose by some 42%, while entry-level wages rose only 12%. Harry, it aligns with exactly what you're saying. Yeah. And because this is the United States and they pay taxes, after after taxes and rent, the average Gen Z worker in New York City has $600 per month left for food, transport, and utilities. And that's based on data pulled from 𝗕𝗰𝗲𝗍. You can pull this up for yourself. So what we're seeing then is, because of this, that we find more multi-generational living is now on an increase, which is somewhat normal here for us in small island jurisdictions. Whether or not you want it, it's almost like a culture almost, not that you necessarily want it, but because here in the Caribbean, small island development states, it's already so expensive, it is actually, it is almost like a norm. So because of that, you have multi-generational living numbers is now rising even in the United States. 𝗕𝗃𝗍𝗲, soon come. And what we see with this is generational housing starts are up based on the stats in the US by 34% year over year since 2026. And that too, those statistics and data can find on movesmart.co. What we also see in the fifth point that I want to highlight here is that the emotional shift that comes along with this. Because what the data and statistic also reveals is that 87% of young people say no one should be judged for living at home. And I hope you see where this is going. And 40% of them say they feel happy living at home. And 33% of them say they feel smart for doing it. And that was also in a poll by CBS News, and they reported it. So bottom line, with all of these statistics that is out there from various sources, reliable sources as well, because I double-checked a lot of them, this is no longer a failure on our young men and women. It's a strategy. And it's a strategy that mentally, emotionally, financially, as parents, we got to be prepared for as well. Yeah, because your job is not just over once they reach 18 or they walk across the stage once they finish their college or university degree. It's a matter of strategy, goes back to that. And there's a matter of survival. Now, many of you may say, why does this matter? Because it's real here. 𝗕𝗃𝗍𝗲, it's good to have you with us. Rent topics for Cayman too. Yeah, rent is an issue here. We see where there's a supply and demand, but we have people asking, where's the legislation for rent control? And the word control is pretty harsh. We have had numerous of discussions here. Why do we want the government to control everything? Be careful what you ask for. If you have to do something with rent laws and control, and we did an entire episode on that, things can get a little tricky there. So you may be asking the question why it matters here. Even though the information that I've shared is US, it doesn't take away from the fact that it is real and stuff that is impacting us here in the Cayman Islands. Harry is saying, in the UK, there is a government policy that a minimum of 10% of newly built homes must be affordable housing. But local councils get around this by rather than taking on new social housing. Because they don't want them in their area. I get you. They tell the company that they must sell the house at an affordable price. What is an affordable price is the question. Well, whatever the council and company decides, as long as they are on paper lower than the normal houses. This is one of the key reasons why social housing is in such a deficit. It is also a reason why house prices don't stop increasing. There is no limit on what companies can charge. Oh, interesting. So that's a quick way around circumventing that. Vicky Joy, let me catch up with you before going back to Harry. Vicky Joy says, Lord, sharing bathroom in Cayman is stress. People nasty bad, especially some men. No wash bath. They don't wash the bathroom, but they stay in longer when and know how to wash. Cayman need to rent. Oh, they need to rent board. Okay, I get you. Yeah. If you're not accustomed to that type of living, Vicky Joy, I tell you, it can be very difficult to get accustomed. If you're used to having your own space, and that's the thing with a lot of us, and I'm speaking locally, that we're accustomed to. We're not accustomed to sharing our spaces at all, which is why I feel that as reality unfolds and the cost thereof of home ownership, that we're going to see the style and how we live change here. Not to tell you that you're going to be sharing shared spaces here. Oh no, that's a matter of what our elected officials can do. And we see where the Honorable Minister is doing his best. And I'll put a bit on that as well, of making access to more affordable housing here and looking at different types of housing so that we can at least continue what we're accustomed to for having our own dedicated space and not have to, many cases saying, have to descend lower our way of living to end up being in having to shared common areas and especially bathroom facilities and that sort of stuff. So yeah, Vicky Joy, I get what you're saying. That takes a lot of getting used to. As we continue here with Harry, here in the UK, all my Indian friends live with their parents. Yes, 30 to 40. They make their children save for a home and only a few own cars. They all use public transport. I admire that so much. You see the culture though. Harry, you see the culture. Correction, 30 to 40. Okay. And Harry further says, for as long as that's for me, it's true. They will continue to jack up prices to increase profits as much as humanly possible. Now, it might just be me, but isn't the government's job to stop this? Based on legislation, they can intervene, but again, sometimes in here, they're asking for some sort of control board. A lot of people are on the fence with that because, again, freedom, a democratic society. Do you want laws to control even that right now? I'm quite sure this conversation could go down a different road when it looks at that control. Now, value for money and fairness, standard of living and all that sort of stuff does come into play. And that's where nationally you have those standards that can come into place. But how far do you want it to go, Harry, is the big question. That it doesn't feel as though you're being dictated to or you're being boxed in unless it's a public-private partnership. So that's something to take into consideration as well. Vicky Joy says, I think you're paying $1,200 for rent. It should stay good and look like not looking like a pig pen. And that has been some of the complaints that we've heard, that some of the places, even where government is paying for, that you have to question its state and it's the public's purse, the public's money that is going into these. It should have at least a minimum standard for what persons are renting. And that's where the clarion call here in the Cayman Islands is calling for, because they don't feel you're getting value for money. Now, on the flip side, you may have landlords saying, look, I am not going to rent to anyone that's being paid rent by the government because all they do is mash up my place. So you have to look at it from both sides of the coin as well. Harry says, but it doesn't mean to be government ministry. It doesn't need to be government minister controlling it, appointing judge, lead, independent, impartial, judicial commission in charge. Okay. Yeah. An oversight body, but national legislation. I get what you're trying to say is what you're asking for, which is what I feel is where the conversation here in the Cayman Islands is headed as well, Harry. So let's see, because more and more we're hearing this, more and more we're seeing the talks are happening. But we got some stuff in the pipeline as we constantly look at this with the Minister of 𝗕𝗰𝗙𝗲, who is planning on putting together, and it is history here in the Cayman Islands for a piece of legislation that he's working on right now. So as we get back to catch up where we were, because I don't want to miss any of your comments and your contributions, even though the information and the data that I shared is US based, what we're seeing is that the drivers are the same in some cases right here in the Cayman Islands. Because we're noticing here, the cost of living in the Cayman Islands is rated as one of the highest in the world. We can see rent for a one-bedroom apartment can easily exceed $1,800 to as much as $2,500. And we know what's happening with groceries, utilities, transportation costs are significantly above global averages as well. We're also seeing where home ownership is increasing out of reach for a lot of our young people. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Good evening. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to chime in on this conversation with respect to one of the comments that I heard you make, and it's the quality of housing that is available to people. And I think maybe you might have been reading a comment about, I don't know, a $1,200 figure.
I'm trying to catch back up.
Or you may have made reference to it.
Adding on to our comment, yeah.
Correct, right? Sabrina, I think
oh yeah, it was a comment.
As a landlord myself, I try to maintain my properties to the absolute best standard. But that comes at a cost to me as well. I have homeowners insurance to pay for those properties. There's maintenance, there's upkeep. And unfortunately, sometimes that rent may be out of reach for some people, right? And that is just the way the cookie crumbles in this country and many countries, right? High rents is not unique to Cayman. But you made an interesting, I guess, comment, if you will, about persons requiring housing assistance from DFA, no longer NAU, DFA, and and the like. The problem that I have, Sabrina, as a legitimate landlord operating legitimate rental units, the problem that I have with it is that in order for me to operate my properties, when I built them, bought them, they had to go through a specific planning phase. I had to get approvals. I had to get certificates of occupancy. The problem that I have with it, persons requiring housing assistance through the Department of Financial Assistance, I would say, are more than likely some of the most vulnerable in our community. And it embarrasses me and pains my heart at the same time that I, as a regular person, have to go through mounds and mounds and mounds of processes to be able to get a legitimate dwelling, if you will. However, persons renting, like you rightfully said, maybe not you, maybe one of your commenters rightfully said, they're living in absolute squalor. You've seen some of the ads.
Yeah. Hello, caller. I think we lost that caller there. Caller, call me back. For whatever reason, we lost her. So, at the end of the day, while that caller, I'm quite sure she'll call back. Call back 943-11886. Harry is saying, and it baffles me that almost all governments are terrified of markets and rich people. Well, I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm afraid you can no longer charge $3,000 a month rent for a one-bedroom apartment. Because the government is developing common sense and is capping you at $1,500 instead. Unfortunately, this means you're going to lose $18,000 a year from your multi-million-dollar income. This must be a really difficult time. I mean, get a grip. Yes, welcome back, caller.
Sorry, I'm not even sure what happened there.
No,
or if I
it's
tried to
been having some
explain-
issues. There have been issues all day from yesterday.
Okay. But yeah, and what I'm saying is, I find it to be a crying shame that the country's purse, because it's our money. It's not the government's money. It's not Sabrina's money. It's not Siobhan's money. It is the country's, the public's purse. If you are the public, it's your money too. That we are having to pay. We're helping persons who are in a time of need, and housing being one of the most necessary things, and food and housing, that in 2026, you have persons requiring housing assistance living in the conditions that they are living in. I just don't understand it. If somebody is requesting housing assistance, I get it that the department is inundated. I get it. I get that there's from what I understand, there may be a shortage of staff. I don't know, right? But it can't be so bad, Sabrina, that you can't take, when you're onboarding someone, that you can't take and say, okay, Siobhan requires housing assistance. She is staying at 123 Bluebird Lane. I'm going to inspect this place.
Right.
You have to make sure that this is fit.
Certain standard. There should be a minimum standard of
A minimum standard fit for habitation. I mean, I've heard horror stories like open sewers.
We've had pictures. We've had pictures.
In the a sewer pipe. Open floors. What are we doing? These are some of our most vulnerable. I'm talking about senior citizens, indigent persons, single mothers who simply can't get a break. Honestly, what are we doing? We have created a situation that we have outpriced ourselves from this housing market. We have created that situation. And we have also created a situation where we have outpriced ourselves from the rental market. Okay? And these persons have to live somewhere. And as far as I know, in order to qualify for DFA assistance, you have to be a Caymanian. So these are Caymanians that are living in squalor. Okay?
Our people, our own.
Sudanese. Exactly. They're not Sudanese. They're not Chinese. They are Caymanians. They're Caymanians. And I'm sorry, people wouldn't be so quick to rent some ramshackle goat pen to people if proper inspections were taking place.
You're quite right.
I'm sorry.
And it's because there's no accountability why they're getting away with it.
I mean, some people might say, well, something is better than nothing. Well, I tell you what, with some of the things I've seen, some of the horror stories that I've heard, nothing is better than what they have, because what they have is not anything. It's not anything. It's embarrassing. It is an absolute atrocity. The conditions that people have to live in this country. And like I said, legitimate persons doing legitimate development, the red tape to build in this country currently is just, but you have Sabrina who can shack up 2 pieces of plywood behind a coconut tree and rent it. Right? And more often than not, the persons requiring this housing are DFA recipients. This is not good enough, Sabrina.
So this
is not good enough.
Just to make sure the people follow what you're saying. If you are a person who do it by the books, you pay your planning fees, you pay all the submission fees and all that. Bottom line, from the start, there is no way you could rent for, let's say, $1,200 then. You understand what I'm saying? Because you did it the legitimate way.
I don't think so. Exactly. I don't think so. But I mean, price aside, my whole MO is to bring awareness to the condition of housing in this country on a whole.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But if the public is paying for something There should be value for money.
Agreed.
Wasted money is wasted money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the government knows, they should know. I mean, now I may be making a stretch, but the government should know that we have 10 people on housing assistance, 15 people on housing assistance.
Mm-hmm. And where are they? Where are they living, and how can we inspect them? Mm-hmm.
Correct. But not only that, but the government should know, well, these persons have been on the list. They've been receiving housing assistance for 5 years, 2 years, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You can see there's either longevity or either that person's going to probably be a long-term recipient.
Mm-hmm.
I know based on their track record, government is not in the business of owning. They're in the business of renting. But in the long run, it costs us more. And people are getting sick in these dwellings. People are losing their absolute dignity because I just want to stress this, that there is no shame in needing DFA assistance. Every person in this country, I don't care who they are or how wealthy they think they are,
mm-hmm.
you are one crisis away
yes.
from that situation.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on the size of the crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If you make thousands, you spend hundreds. If you make hundreds of thousands, you spend in thousands. And that's just the way it is. If you make hundreds, you spend in tens, right? Everybody is just one crisis away from that type of situation. And we need to look at the humane side of things. These are humans we're renting to.
Mm-hmm.
These are people that we are renting to, right? And my biggest concern, Sabrina, I think we had an almost scenario of this sort in West Bay, if not this year, very late last year, of, a home that had additions. I'm not going to say it was illegal or illegitimate because I do not know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as a daughter of a major contractor, I'm not stupid, right? And I just start to think, when you are putting board on board, the risk of fire is exponentially
mm-hmm.
higher. Okay? It's exponentially higher. And you have electricity that's not properly run. We saw, I believe, in 2023 or 24, we saw a whole house explode from a bad propane wiring.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And these are my concerns. That would just think about somebody with 10 shack, stunted town place, whatever you call them. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And one fire breaking out there, it is like wildfire to a wooden premises.
Mm-hmm.
It is like wildfire. And I think the loss of human life in those scenarios is great.
We have been blessed thus far, though, so far, because we know what is here. We have been a blessed.
One day,
yeah.
But Sabrina, one day
Mm-hmm.
it could run out.
Yeah.
It could run out because people are becoming more and more, in my opinion, careless,
mm-hmm.
reckless, and taking it for granted. I think that some of the planning requirements are a little bit of an overkill, a little bit. But I do think that ultimately it is for the absolute best and safety of the occupants of that building.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So they're not just there because someone wants to make your life a little bit difficult. No. They're legitimate. And if you don't understand, then it seems cumbersome.
Right.
But I just think that government, to address particularly that DFA part of it, government needs to build a building. They absolutely need to invest in community housing. We are going to have persons who are going to require lifelong assistance with housing.
Mm-hmm.
Lifelong assistance with housing.
Well, you know that
on top of.
You know that what was tabled in April of this year is that we're having our first ever public and affordable housing policy, which was tabled by the Honorable Minister. And that pretty much is a 10-year strategic plan that was tabled earlier this year. And we're waiting for that to come out, and that hoping that the key goals of that plan, based on what was tabled, is that the aim is to ensure that every Caymanian, one, has access to safe and affordable, sustainable housing. And then the aim of that as well is to create this whole national framework. What that is, that's pretty much a guide to guide the public and where affordable housing is, delivered over the next 10 years. And then it also is in this first ever document addressing rising rents, as you're alluding to, long awaiting lists and affordable pressures. And then hoping that the information that is collected from that and of course, community input will then help, similar to Vision 2008, and bring it where something that everybody is happy with.
My favorite document.
So we can't say that they're not trying. They're doing something. This is the first ever public.
I'm not suggesting that they're not trying. Absolutely. I'm not suggesting that they're trying, but to bring more awareness to it, to ask for better control, to ask for more accountability. I don't think that that's too much. And I'm sorry, if you work in the Department of Financial Assistance, that used to be tied to what was the needs assessment unit, right? And I think the persons working in there are largely social workers. Your job is more than merely handing out checks, okay? Your job is to ensure that those persons are safe, that those persons are in upward mobility to getting their lives on track. It's not just about getting them to the next day or to the next month. It is to provide upward mobility for them to be able to help themselves eventually. At least that should be the goal. That should be the goal. I mean, we've seen a lot of redundancy in that not being the case over successive years, but I'm hopeful that this government will get it and will apply the necessary pressures to get these things done. Because I think it's needed.
Of course. Well, we're definitely seeing. We're seeing that the demand that is there. They've actually got the information that proves there's a 3,000 gap that needs to be filled, and this is why alternate types of housing based on demand. We're seeing where the pace they just cannot even keep up, which is why they're looking at different style of housing so that you can be able to deliver houses that is safe and affordable quicker, and then meeting and closing that 3,000 gap. So, I mean, we will still be juggling, with the whole underemployment
I will say
as well.
Absolutely, but that's a hole that we need to plug. We need to plug that hole. Nobody else is going to plug it for us. I actually visited the work office on Mary Street today, and I was surprised. I was able to get in and get out of there in 5 minutes.
Because they've embraced online submissions.
I love it.
Yeah, there a lot of people are doing stuff online as well.
Well, I love it. Like, kudos for efficiency. But yeah, I just want to bend your ear for one more thing. It's coming down the pipeline. And you know how passionate I feel about financial services. So I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but the UK is now like, they got their foot on our neck to I saw something breaking on that. Yeah, not that beneficial ownership transparency to, in a nutshell, for persons who don't know or understand, they want us to make our beneficial ownership registers public. And the UK has basically said, as I understand, not only are we asking you to make them public, we are asking you to we're asking you to make them public. We're also saying that you're going to do it, and as the mother country, we have the capacity to create legislation to make you do it.
Now this is going to show the strength of That's
a bit scary. And just to put it out there for people, financial services, what they used to refer to back in the day, those offshore banks, accounts for a significant portion of this country's GDP. I believe it's over 60% at this point. And just understand that, the privacy surrounding beneficial ownership in this country is what largely attracts persons who are doing business with us to the jurisdiction. And for all of those, the tax haven people, go fly a kite. We're not a tax haven. We're a tax neutral jurisdiction. And we have all types of tax agreements in place. And we have various agreements that require us to comply with other jurisdictions to provide information, as long as it's a legitimate request, right? But I think that should that come to fruition, it could be the ruination of financial services as we know it. I may be a bit bold in saying this, but I can't help having been what I feel like a veteran in the industry and a baby to the real veterans, almost 20 years here. I can't help but feel like since I've come into the industry that the UK has been trying to ruin our industry.
But we had signaled this earlier on in the latter part of last year, where they had given them a period of time in order to get their ducks in a row, so to speak, because I can remember covering that. And if you don't mind, caller, let me just bring, because we were on one thing and we went to something else, but this is an article as well that was covered by CMR. So if you want to go and read the article there, but just let me just break it down so people can understand exactly what you were saying, because not everybody understands it. You understand? So I just feel we're learning here together. Let's break it down. What this is saying, my friends, as we digressed just a bit, because it is something of urgency, is that we're seeing here in this article that the United Kingdom government is getting really frustrated with how slow its crown dependencies and overseas territories, such as us, the Cayman Islands, are moving on financial transparency rules. And these rules are meant to make it more difficult for criminals to hide money in offshore companies. So a senior UK official, and this is Baroness Margaret Hodge, is basically saying, we've tried asking nicely, quote, if progress doesn't speed up, we may force the issue by passing laws from London, end quote.
Correct.
And she and another minister are now visiting places like Guernsey to increase pressure on jurisdictions like the Cayman Islands, our home. So
can I correct one of your statements before you continue?
Go ahead.
Beneficial ownership transparency has nothing to do with trying to keep up criminals. That is strictly compliance and KYC.
Well,
right? Beneficial ownership transparency. That's what they'll say. Right?
Exactly.
Beneficial ownership transparency is just so that they can know who has what where. That's exactly what they want to know, who the beneficial owner of, and by beneficial, who owned this car, who owned this boat, who owned this land, who owns these shares, right? And that may or may not have tax implications. That may or may not have, or may trigger other things, right? But just understand that the person who invests in Cayman or in a Cayman Islands company, they have a reporting obligation that is separate and apart from anything connected to Cayman and that Cayman entity, right? So I just feel like the UK is really being, now I don't want to get the governor upset at me, but I just really think that the UK is really bullying us with this beneficial ownership thing. And just to be clear, let me educate the public. This is my arena. I think we have done a fantastic job with implementing the beneficial, the BOTA, the Beneficial Ownership Transparency Act, right? We implemented that in 2023, and it was amended again in 2025. Right. 2023, the 2023 Act was done so that the reporting requirement was established, i.e. your register of members, i.e. registered shareholders, whatever you want to refer to it as, that was readily, not just available, it was filed with a competent authority, in this case, the registrar of companies. That information is private to the public. Private to the public. However, we are a competent jurisdiction and we are required by law, the FATF, the OECD, we are required to comply with requests from other competent authorities, not just in Cayman, and other jurisdictions, right? So that information is just not open to the public for scrutiny. I'm sorry. I don't think it's right, fair, or necessary for anybody to know what Sabrina owns in 𝗕𝗰𝗙 Limited. It's nobody's business. It's nobody's business. And we keep spinning this tale that they've been telling for years and years. And I'm sorry, Minister Hodge, Baroness Hodge, that is a bunch of Hodge that she's talking. It really is. And it irks me to no end. And I do hope that the Premier, Honorable Andre Ebanks, intends to defend this vigorously, because this could spell the beginning of the end of financial services should that implementation come down the pipeline. People, I hate to hear tax havens. I hate to hear, just for money laundering. Cayman is one of the most difficult places to establish a bank account. Have you ever tried to open one as a Caymanian in this country lately?
What? Of course. Took me almost 3 months.
Okay.
And worse than I'm a PEP, an inactive PEP.
There you go. Right. So just understand that this is just, for me, again, it feels like they're just trying to cripple our industry, because if you can get the same service, you have the same level of, you don't have any anonymity, you don't have any privacy, well, just set up your company here. Just set it up here. It's no different. It's no different. You know?
Well, what we're getting comments here, caller, because you're not seeing the comments, is that Harry is saying, respectfully, there is very little the Premier can do if the UK government puts its foot down and says you're going to do this or else. And if, hold on. And if he tried to do anything, they would either impose an order in council or Section 81 government. If they tried to do anything after that, in most extreme cases, they could just. These are just comments. I'm just reading comments because you're not seeing them.
I mean, I'm a little bit extreme. The Premier has options available to him. I will not say them, because people might just lose their absolute loving mind. But the Premier has options available to him, and there is a nuclear option. I will lead him and his team to, I guess, suss that out and do what they think is in the best interest of the country. But again, I want to remind everybody who is listening, and I hope they are too, that without financial services, this place may cease to exist. And it would be a tragedy. It would be disastrous to this jurisdiction. We are the hedge fund capital of the world. Okay, there was a recent publication came out that as of 2027, we're going to be holding somewhere close to $700 billion in assets.
And we can see where more is coming, as reported, by the independent.
Exactly. Yeah, all of that, absolutely, all of that could just dry up overnight. And there goes your industry.
Well, this is not a matter of fair. This is not a matter of fair. This is an article that we're reading. And I know that we had highlighted this. This is warning where they were extending it. Now, maybe people were saying, why are they traveling so much? Why is the Premier traveling so much and trying to strengthen in our financial industry? Remember, we don't know, but this is where it is key for you to speak to the people and let people know what's going on. Because when you have articles like this coming out, even if it is factual and that they are turning up the heat, we need to hear from our elected officials a little bit more candidly, ahead of time. Handle the narrative, take control of the narrative is all we're saying. Because we don't want it to be fill with fear and all this sort of stuff. And you can read the article for you want on CMR and take out of it what you want. But until we hear our leaders that are holding these key positions, that they represent the people, letting us know what this means. We're hearing it from your contribution for someone working in the industry. We will do our best to break it down in layman's terms. I was just trying to dissect in layman's terms what the article was saying, but we're having all the comments coming in. At the end of the day, who people really want to hear is who is at the helm of the ship, who will be in discussions and talks with the governor and the UK to try and save us.
Agreed. And just to remind everyone, he is not only the premier, he is also the Minister of Financial Services. Right? So this is a critical, like, this is critical for us that we get this right and that we play our cards right. I'm not advocating that we just lie down and just be like, sure, just do what you have to do. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. I genuinely believe it would be to our detriment. And it would make us no longer the attractive jurisdiction to do business with, as we've done before, just purely because it is just not, it's no longer going to be feasible economically or otherwise. Well, there are other jurisdictions.
Right now, we see the article. Maybe in the coming days, we will hear more from our government officials. But like as Harry is saying, caller, what do you want the premier to do if the UK government did put its foot down?
Well, I'm not going to say what I want him to do, but he has options. I think he has options. Okay. Don't forget that this issue came up before, and I stand corrected if I have the minister wrong, but I believe it was at the time, it was under Mr. 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗏, who was the premier at the time. I may have that wrong, and I do stand corrected in that. And he told them in no uncertain terms, wasn't happening.
Well, wasn't happening. Things and times have changed, and we see what's happening in the industry. We see what's happening geopolitically, and we're seeing how the demands are becoming more. It's just like this is issues all over the world right now. So we'll just have to wait and see, caller. But I want to get back on track so that I can end the thing. But thank you for highlighting that. We can go more into this and follow this story up more maybe tomorrow. So I welcome you to call back.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Thanks. There you have it. Harry continues to say, look at Section 81 of the Constitution and remember the UK is still supreme legislative body in the Cayman Islands. The UK government allows Cayman's constitution and self-government. Harry is also saying it is not a sovereign state nor a sovereign government. Well, we'll definitely wait and see exactly what more is coming out of that. But as I began to dissect that article in layman's terms, not putting a spin on it, and I'm just breaking down the article that is hosted and reported by CMR. And I got to the point before taking that call is where we fit in this whole thing. And as the caller rightly said, that we see where right here in the Cayman Islands, we have made progress over the years. And we do have law, and it's called the Beneficial Ownership Transparency Act. That's the acronym that the caller had used. And what that act does is that it requires companies to identify and verify who really owns them, owns companies, right? And Cayman also has legitimate access register, meaning law enforcement and tax authorities that can request ownership information as well. What we're seeing, though, based on as outlined in this article, is that critics say these systems don't always work well because, 1, the fees are high, 2, the process is slow, the requirements to access information are just too strict. So even though we here in the Cayman Islands has a system in place, even legislation, some critics argue that it's as open or not as effective as it should be. And because of that, the UK is pushing harder. And people may say, well, why? Why now? And what we're saying based on this article is that Europe is about to require public access to company ownership information, and that the United Kingdom wants its territories, which we are, to match that standard is what's being said. Now, the United Kingdom message is essentially saying, look, Europe is opening up. You need to open up too, meaning us. And another UK minister added, as covered in this, that some territories have been used, is what is alleged, to hide money or avoid taxes, and progress on fixing that has been, painfully slow, meaning correcting this, getting rid of the stigma and making sure that it doesn't happen. And what belts and braces needed to be put in place, they're saying has been really, really slow. So what could happen next from this is that, I guess, unless we hear otherwise, is that the United Kingdom has done this before, because we're noticing back in 2018, it passed a law forcing overseas territories to move forward towards transparency, right? And it may do something similar again, is what we're fearing. And right now, though, only Gibraltar, Montserrat, St. Helena have fully public registers at this time, based on what I'm seeing, right? And what we're seeing here, Cayman, British Virgin Islands, Turks and Caicos are in the middle tier where limited access systems are in place. And there are other BOTCs that are far further behind. So what we will do, we'll keep abreast of all of this happenings, what it means. And I'm quite sure in the coming days, as this begins to take traction and we need to be filling it with facts and hearing from our leaders, maybe there's going to be an interview on other platforms or otherwise, or we'll probably get a statement on it to fill in the gaps and to reassure the people of the Cayman Islands exactly what this means from their perspective, not mine. I'm just dissecting the article and bringing it in layman's terms to you so you can understand what it means. And I want to thank that caller for weighing in, having worked in the industry. And there are others of you as well who may have an understanding of what's going on, be it from the political perspective, having some historical context. But where we are today, right now, and we understand the key pillar of our industry and where we generate our revenue from, is financial services, is one of the key pillars, such as tourism, such as medical. And look at that, how that ties in. Look at all of the other industries that we were talking about. Entertainment, tourism, so hello, diversification is key. And bottom line is, let's not put the cart before the horse. With what we're seeing put into public's domain, seeing all of the relationships being built by the Honorable Premier, who is the minister responsible for financial services, having traveled and all this sort of stuff, he is, I am sure, well aware of what these deadlines mean, how the UK could be putting pressure on this jurisdiction, like they say other British overseas jurisdictions, to get their ducks in a row. Let's see how he will counter this and report back to us, the people of the country, in the coming days. Harry actually went on to say, as quoted here, well, I mean, the UK has been pushing this for a long time, since Gordon Brown was Chancellor. It's just until recently they didn't really want to push any buttons unless necessarily. But now, because of the persistent delay, or in the UK's size shortcomings of the Cayman government and other developed administration, is that they're fed up and are just going to impose it if they deem it necessary, is what Harry is commenting here in a further comment. And further to that, the United Kingdom government can order the Cayman governor to invoke Section 81 via Section 31, subsection 2. Well, Harry, let's see what's going to happen. Like I said, let's see what our leaders are going to be putting into place to protect our industry. We understand the financial industry and the importance to our GDP, our income, and all that good stuff here to the Cayman Islands, how we make our money and all that sort of stuff, how we pay for the very same retirement to fund social development and services and all that sort of stuff. So this is one of the areas that we want to make sure that we protect, but because we're not independent as well, let's see exactly how far this button is going to be pushed. Oh, Miss Barbara, I got to make sure I read this comment that you were saying. You were saying, Miss Barbara, earlier comment while Siobhan was on, the caller is incorrect that the staff at DFA are social workers, that department deals strictly with financial services. Thus, they are not required to deal with humanitarian side of life. DCFS deals with persons who are in need of personal care, help, and/or personal issues. And Ms. Barbara G also just commented, I'm of the opinion that the government should be buying up what land they can afford, have it divided into house lots and sold to Caymanians only. Pretty soon, there'll be no land left, all for the upcoming generations to buy. Okay, Ms. Barbara, thank you for that comment. Now, what we're seeing as we come back and get back onto the topic here is that we're seeing where our younger persons, there is a bit of underemployment as well. Across the region, we're seeing where youth underemployment often range from 20%, right, to 40%, depending on, of course, what areas and what country. The real stats for this, I was not able to get by the time I went live for the youth or younger people unemployment. So my apologies there. But even when young people are employed, we're seeing where wages often do not match living costs as well. So they can't even. I have it right here where my 25-year-old has got a very good job, but exactly what his salary, and he'd consider making a good salary, he would not even have qualified for a Frank Hall house. Nope. And he has demonstrated that he has held that job for a long time and it's a decent income, but it doesn't meet the threshold to be able to even afford one of those as a single young man, unless he and his fiance or partner combined salaries. And even then it was challenging. Be it a Frank Hall home, a 1-bedroom apartment, whatever, you have to factor in strata and all that sort of stuff, life insurance, which now I understand is optional. It all depends on what bank. We'll look into that a little bit more as well. But yeah, when you look at property insurance and all that sort of stuff, there is lots of truth to this information here. And another part that we see is migration patterns, because many Caribbean young adults, many people here in the Caribbean region leave for school, right? They go off to college, university, they return home temporarily in some cases, leave again because it's just not cutting it. Maybe for work. Some of them may return back home when life becomes unaffordable, be it overseas or they have ended their, they get that bug, that fever to come back home. Versus what we're seeing, that this is almost a reflection because it's mirroring the US boomerang pattern, just that ours is just not in our own island. We are going to other countries in some cases. What we're seeing though, it's layered with migration as well that is tied in there. And then we also see one of the impacts as well as cultural expectations. Remember, we delved into that at the very beginning. And we saw where Caribbean families, this is just a culture, have always been multi-generational. I said that at the beginning. But the reasons are shifting from cultural to right now being the reality of it's just a matter of existence, survival, and it's becoming more an economic reason for why they're like that. So what we're seeing is that even though we don't have taxation here in the Cayman Islands, right? When you look at the US, the gap between wages and the cost of independence is huge. And it's many times, as we said, young Caymanians, when you look at their entry-level wages, some of them are as low based on their jobs, can range, this is just an average, of $2,000 to $3,000 a month. If you got to look at that now, right, and you put rent and utilities with an average cost of, let's say, $1,800 to $2,800 a month, transportation, we know how that is, $300 to $600. We're not even talking about groceries, right? It all depends on the amount of the household, $400 to $700 average a month. There is no room. Where is savings in that? You can't even get an apartment. We see where Vicky Joy, is it Vicky Joy, was saying $1,200. Yeah. There's no room for savings. There's no room for you to even be independent here in the Cayman Islands under those conditions. There is a harsh reality for us here in the Caribbean and in many other small island development states. We see one thing that is a number of things that are unique. Housing supply is just outright limited. That has been reinforced, highlighted, and endorsed by the Minister of Plahi. We see where also, it's not that there isn't land, it's no affordable land. And as Ms. Barbara G. alluded to earlier on in her comment, land space is scarce. Affordable land space, right? Then we see the high construction costs. We're importing everything. Yes, that in itself drives up costs. Even if you say I can afford to get a little piece of land because they give me 100% financing, then the real thing comes up. How am I going to build? What am I going to build? Am I going to pitch a tent? Yes. And we're seeing where tourism economics inflate local costs as well. So the result from all of this is that we're seeing, based on patterns, behaviors, and data, that our younger adults, they delay in many cases, or they just decide, look, I could be home unless me and my partner can share some place and hope that it works out. But what we're seeing that young adults are delaying moving out, they're delaying marriage. Many cases, a lot of them are avoiding at all cost children. They're also delaying that dream, which is fading because they see it more as a burden of home ownership. And can you imagine? A lot of them are even delaying career advancement. Even though that came at the bottom of it, it's a reality because it showed up in the statistics. This is exactly what the US Census Bureau has actually revealed. And at the end of the day, young adults are experiencing these traditional markers of adulthood later than what we're seeing in previous generations. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of factors that impact us because we're in a small island development states. Yes, small island development states face unique pressures just because of our sheer size. This is no different. We see it here, Bermuda, Barbados, St. Lucia. They're all facing right now land scarcity, which equals limited housing. They're also seeing where we import dependence. Yes, we import dependence, meaning everything costs more. From cement, steel, lumber, appliances, furniture. Yeah. And what we're seeing with tourism-driven inflation is that tourism rises rent, food costs, food and transportation costs as well, plus with other things that are happening geopolitically around us. Yes. Don't you eliminate climate vulnerability, because we're seeing that storms, our very own risks, has impacted insurance costs, also insurance construction costs, to make them safer, as the caller alluded to earlier on. And that in itself has housing insecurity as well. Let me catch up here. I can't remember their name, sorry, but the one called Who Advocates Independence is going to love this if the UK government did try to impose. Oh, Harry. Oh, Denny has gone MIA. Denny Warren has gone MIA. He has been at least on this platform. So I don't know. I got to reach out to him. But yeah, Harry, you remember, or you're something else. Youth underemployment in the Cayman Islands stands at 13.7. Yes, according to, thank you for pulling that up. I just put together what I had. 13.7 according to the latest stats. Thank you for sharing that with me. Ms. Barbara says there is no 1,200 apartments in any decent neighborhoods anymore. Yeah, I believe you there. And the key word, decent. Decent is the key word here. Andrew Campbell is commenting and saying, a young single person without a child needs to make a minimum of $20 per hour or $800 per week, $3,200 a month. Realistically, $3,600 to $4,000 if you include car payments, rent, utilities, insurance, and pension. That's the cold, hard truth. And I can assure you, Andrew, still, based on what we're seeing, the cost of some of these houses, or let's say an apartment, that still wouldn't get them through the doors sometimes to own in Grand Cayman. Let me specify, you may luck out in the sister islands, but in Grand Cayman, that wouldn't get you too far. Wake Up Cayman Islands is saying, I attended an Indian birthday celebration where an 18-year-old received a remarkable gift from his grandfather, the key to own his own house. He wasn't going to live in it yet. The plan was for it to be rented out until he finished university. In other words, the rental income would help pay for his education. Wow, that's, you see, again, the difference in cultures. Look at that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Wake Up Cayman Islands continues to say, that is the kind of long-term planning and generational strategy many families could learn from. Pooling resources, investing early, and setting up the next generation for stability and opportunity. Well said. And thank you for that. Again, look at the culture. And if you say, why are we not more successful? Why are we not advancing faster in our own home? Thank you for sharing that with us, because that's a culture that is not in us. Some of our families have had generational financial stability or access to wealth or access to real estate that they were able to give a good footing for their children and could pass on to their grandchildren. Not everybody here is of the same start. So again, look at certain cultures that come from across the world, come here and have the same basic principles, is able to sustain themselves even here and be successful. The root of what I am repeating is culture, behavior, practices, discipline, further vision ahead, and not competing with your neighbor or getting the likes or just, being up on your social media pages. This is not beating anyone up. This is not pointing the finger. By no means that is the case. What you don't know, you don't know. Which is why spaces like this, Wake Up, sharing stories like that, us having and opening up these conversations can open the eyes of so many. A lot of you going away for college and university, you're opening up to different cultures and behaviors and seeing how things work. You come back home and you're like, oh my God, Miss Sabrina, but it's like pushing water uphill. Why can't my parents see this? Why can't the government see that? Why can't they consider this? Yeah, I understand your frustration. And this is why we're having these difficult conversations now. I have friends, and I'm going to pick on one particular friend who refuses, don't even want to hear, I shouldn't say the word refuse, that's harsh. You couldn't tell them anything about a national ID. I respect that. Oh boy, they could get me, but I love this space so I can get some of my diehard friends, like close friends. Now, they need a UK passport. And it was only because an incident happened that now they're considering whether or not they should get one. I was shocked when I realized that they didn't have one. And I didn't realize how they were like, I'm not getting it. I don't need it. My Cayman passport can't take me out. I need to go. But yet they want to travel. Oh my God, I'm going to pay for this. Yeah. And it's like, you know, they're having a hissy fit because, yes, they're seeing the realities and the benefits of getting a UK travel document versus just traveling on a Cayman travel document. And how things and times are changing, I'm going to laugh at them yet, because I will probably be the one who will volunteer to take them to get their national ID because they're going to need it. But I'll tell you that when that actually comes to reality. But the takeaway is that we're seeing where times are changing. And unless you decide you're limiting yourself, there are going to be some things that are going to be imposed. That if your ability to move, and I can have some people agreeing or disagreeing with me or coming after me, that's fine. That's what the space is for. I'm only reporting what I'm seeing. You either follow along or it's going to be really difficult for certain things to take place. And that includes travel. The thing is, some of the biggest critics are seeing it and they're speaking as though they wouldn't subscribe to it. But on the DL, they're okay. They're sorting out. So it kind of makes you look at them totally different. But to each his own. I just know I'm sharing this story with a friend of mine who I know eventually is going to get a UK passport, whether or not they want to or not, or they make the decision, I'm not going to go beyond Florida or within Canada, but into the EU, they ain't going nowhere unless they get a multiple of stuff into the Cayman travel document. Well, that's their choice. That's their choice. So like the soap opera go, as the world turns, we'll wait for the next episode. I'll keep you updated as to how that unfolds. Oh my goodness. Wake Up says, I was kicked out of the house by my stepfather to pay someone else's mortgage. Imagine, I was $900 in rent out of school. I used to cry. Really? How did that work out? Harry is saying, Sabrina, what do you think of the idea of rent and price control committees in a general sense? I think we need some oversight body to look at it that is well represented by a cross-section of persons to have a national guideline. I am all for it, Harry. I said that here before. I think it is. And as we alluded to earlier on in the show, I don't think it should be 100% controlled by the government, but I feel that it is something that we could benefit from. I think a lot of locals here are asking for it. And even those who are big in the rental market have their being represented as well. The key is to not have it lopsided where there's too much owners or landlords versus persons, civil society, and just regular people looking at it, financial people, the legal-minded, and the human rights element as well. So I think once we have a good cross-section and age, gender as well, represented on that, I think we would be headed in a good direction. That's just my opinion. Wouldn't a Caymanian citizen still have access to UK embassy support service if they needed for some reason? Of course. Yes, they would. Yes, they would. Because it doesn't limit their access if they travel on their Cayman travel document. It's just a pain in the backside, regardless of whether they had a UK travel document or not, considering that there is still a BOTC. That's correct. But it's just not worth the headache. I mean, you could miss connecting flights, for God's sakes. You could ruin a trip, at least for the first start of it. Yeah. So to each his own. That's why I don't judge. I really don't. To each his own. But you got to make a decision. You got to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to go along with it. So at the end of the day, like I said, we are seeing here for the first time ever that our Cayman Islands government is trying to make a step into the right direction, where we're actually doing something to at least ease the pressure pressure, especially when it comes to housing, as I alluded when my caller called, and that was putting the spotlight on the first ever public and affordable housing policy. That's a 10-year strategic plan. And we're hoping then that at the end of the day, you know, our younger generations, even interested in home ownership, you know, will see this. So yes, man, Harry, that's fine. Good night. Thank you for staying up with us. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Always appreciate your contributions, Harry. Stay safe. But yeah, so we're seeing where, as we wind down this episode of Sabrina Speaks, where, let's be honest with the talks of whether or not some of our generations globally and right here, Cayman, whether or not these Gen Z and young millennials are even redefining adulthood. And what we're saying is that what the data is showing internationally is that studies constantly show that younger adults are prioritizing travel, experiences, flexibility when it comes to work, what they can look into creating apps and becoming millionaires over even their parents at such a younger age. Not everybody strikes the luck so quickly, though. But bottom line is, what they're saying is that they prefer mobility. That's what we're seeing over being tied to a mortgage. We're also seeing some early data coming out saying that they feel home ownership is less attainable than it was for previous generations, which we can all attest that that's a fact. And this aligns again with the US boomerang generation trend, where it's saying that the 58% of young adults who move out eventually move back home. And 15%, if you missed it at the beginning, did that multiple times, largely due to affordability and pressures, right? So while we don't have the same volume of youth trend studies as the US, we do know one thing for sure, is that housing costs here at home and in many other small island development states have outpaced wages for more than a decade. And you can find this based on information that is printed out and data received by the Chamber of Commerce. And what we're also finding as well is that young adults are also facing, as we alluded to earlier on, limited land, high construction costs. And we're seeing where the demand for more service industry workers are tourism-driven inflation. So do young people want homes is the question? Yes, of course, every one of them. And when I say homes, their own place, it could be a townhouse, it could be a flat, a duplex, whatever. Yes, the answer based on the data is yes, but not at any cost. There's a but. Young adults today, and you have it with them saying, they want affordability. They want stability as well. They want a decent quality of life, flexibility, and they also want to have experiences. They're not just rejecting home ownership. Please don't get it wrong. What we're seeing, and as you're beginning to understand that generation, is that they are actually rejecting the idea of sacrificing their entire life to afford a house. Bet you that takes a different spin. Yeah. We see where our older generations, oh my God, 60s, 70s, and even the early 80s grew up in a world and a time where land was cheaper, salaries matched living costs. One income could actually support a family. And yes, homeownership was a realistic early milestone. But what our young people are facing today? Higher cost, lower purchasing power, higher debt, higher compensation, higher expectations as well. And what does that result? It is resulting in our very own young people delaying home ownership, returning home after college, trying to survive, to get a job. And for those who can afford it, they're prioritizing mental health and flexibility. Yes, And to be honest, what the data is showing is that they're feeling priced out of the traditional path. And this, my friend, is not a lack of ambition. It's a response to the economic reality. That's bottom line what it is. 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗃 is saying we need the expandable container homes in Cayman, and no 18-year-old should be paying $1,200 in rent. How will they save for a home? And Vicky Joy says, can someone who works at Subway, Burger King, KFC can afford townhouse in Cayman? No, it's almost impossible. Like I tell you, Vicky Joy, I know where my son is working, and that is not even at any of the fast food joints. And he and his fiance could not even they couldn't. That's why they are not having children. Yes, you're quite right. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's conversation was not about blame, and I hope you get that based on the feedback. Thank you. Even though we digressed into something else, we brought it back right round. And if we want, we can go into that a little bit more, hoping that in short order, our government will be making and addressing our people more, giving more context to exactly what that means for us and the trajectory for our country and the industry, making sure that we're safe, that we're doing all we can to protect that, and some indication as to how they feel about these pressures that are coming on. But yes, it was not about blame. It was just about the reality. That's all it is. And what we can't take away is the fact that our young adults aren't failing. No, they're not. And you as parents are not failing either. Don't walk with that weight on your shoulders, my friends. The economy is just shifted and continues to shift. That's happening globally, and it's happening locally. And for us here at home in the Cayman Islands, and like every other small island jurisdiction, we must adapt accordingly. Because at the end of the day, when young people can't launch, a country in itself, guess what? Can't grow. Andrew is saying, as we close here this evening, if your single income is $36 a year, your maximum load should be maximum 4 times over 20 to 25 years. Yeah. 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗃 say, great story. Great story. Wake up, Cayman. Thank you so much. It has been my pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks right here on the CMR TV platform. And to all of our loyal followers, supporters, commenters, callers, I want you to know that you're appreciated. And even those who don't do either of the same, but you show up every time, even after we are no longer live. I want to let you know we appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for your continued support. God bless. Good night. Love you lots. See you tomorrow.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.